So the next part of this lesson is going to be multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions is actually a lot easier than adding and subtracting because we do not need a common denominator. The algorithm for multiplying fractions is to just multiply straight across. But I like to do what's called cross-canceling because that simplifies the numbers before you have to multiply. And since you can't use a calculator, it makes it smaller numbers so it's easier to multiply. So what you want to do is take a look at the numerator and the denominator. If you can find one number in the numerator and the denominator that have a common factor or a common number that goes into them, you can essentially divide out that factor like you're canceling or simplifying a fraction. So the first thing I notice is the 12 and the 3, and they both have a factor of 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. I also notice that 5 and 25 have a common factor of 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. Now the 4/5 have no common factors, and we can't simplify 1 any further, so now I'm going to multiply straight across. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, and 5 times 1 is 5. So this is much simpler than trying to multiply 12 times 5 and 25 times 3, and then figuring out how to simplify your fraction. Let's take a look at one more. This one we have an integer times a fraction. So what we have to keep in mind is that an integer can become a fraction by putting it over 1. So now we're going to look to see if there's anything we can simplify. And 6 and 2 have a common factor of 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. And then we're going to multiply straight across. Negative 9 times negative 3 is positive 27. And fraction word problem. If 2/3 of the freshman class have school spirit, and there are 471 freshmen, how many have school spirit? So we have to take 2/3 times 471, and I'm going to make that into a fraction. And then I am going to multiply. So I'm going to try and figure out if 471 is divisible by 3. One of the divisibility rules for 3 is to add the digits together. So I'm going to go off to the side over here. The digits of 471 are 4, 7, and 1. So we're going to add those together. 7 plus 1, and I like to go in an order that makes sense to me instead of necessarily left to right. So 7 plus 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. And 12 is divisible by 3. So 3 will go into 471 evenly. So I'm going to start dividing. 3 goes into 4 once, with 1 left over. 3 goes into 17 5 times, with 2 left over. And 3 goes into 21 7 times. So now I have 2 times 157, and I'm going to multiply this using my box method. Actually, I'll use distributive property on this one. So we've got 100 plus 50 plus 7. Distributing my 2, I get 200 plus 100 plus 14. And then combining, I get 314.